We've all heard myths about the fountain of youth and water as an elixir for life, but what if there's actually some scientific merit to these things? Stay tuned for today's episode to find out more. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. Today we have a deep dive on structured water, and in particular the Analemma wand. So this is the device that we're going to be talking about today. Essentially, it is used to structure your water. If you want to check it out, my discount code is Sarah. That's going to be linked down in the show notes for you guys. But I wanted to bring on the top scientist from this company, as well as the creator of this company, again, to talk about some really cool health innovations. We are talking about increasing ATP production, cooling down the centers of the brain, improving the gut microbiome, improving the soil microbiome. And again, they are doing these extensive scientific studies to show these health promoting benefits of structured water. So I think you guys are going to find this episode really fascinating, again, because a lot of us have just been told fountain of youth and these kind of myths about water are silly. We don't really need to worry about it. Just drink anything out of the tap and it's fine. But if you are a fan of the show, you know that I'm not a fan of tap water. So this is really a deeper dive into those topics. Hope you guys enjoy it. Again, that discount code with Analemma is all caps Sarah if you want to check out that product for any reason. And all of the timestamps, which you're going to find down in the show notes as well, are brought to you by my two sponsors. The first one is going to be Viva Rays. Now, we talk a lot in this episode about the importance of circadian rhythms and light when it comes to water. So I find that these 3-in-1 system from Viva Rays is a really great way to protect my circadian rhythms. You get a base layer for your screens, orange layer for sunset, and then before bed, the red layer. It really helps your body to get into that mode of producing melatonin so you can get that deep restorative sleep to regenerate your cells. You can use my code Yogi to save over at Viva Rays 15%. That link is down in the show notes. The second sponsor of today's show is going to be Optimal Carnivore. Now, I'm a huge fan of their organ meat complex, but they also have a beef liver and a brain nourish supplement. That's brain and lion's mane. My code is carnivore uppercase Y to save on the Optimal Carnivore supplement. And again, you can find that link down in the show notes. This is a great way to fill in any nutritional gaps that you may have in your diet. So thank you again for listening, for watching, and I will talk with you again soon. All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We have a very special treat today. We have two experts with Analemma water to talk about structured water, to talk about the Analemma wand, and really bring you guys the science. This is a really exciting episode. So we have Mario and Dolf. Thank you both for being here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, and we were just talking a little bit before I turned on the camera. One of the last things I did on my quest to get pregnant, if I stand up here, I've got just a few weeks left. So there's a lot. If I have trouble breathing, that's why. There's a little boy kicking my lungs. But adding the structured water was one of the things that I did that was like the final thing. And then it was like, oh, okay. And I think that it just really helped the systems of my body. And that's easy for me to just say, but you guys are the experts. So I'm really excited to talk about how structured water benefits our health and how the Analemma wand brings that into process. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Maybe in the beginning, maybe we can explain to your audience like what coherent water is.
Yes. Yeah. Let's start with both of you introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about the coherent water, just because I know you have a big scientific background, both of you. And so I know they love to understand, my audience loves to understand who they're talking to for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to put the spotlight on Dolf because Dolf is one of the founders. He is behind the creation of Analemma. So I would really like to put the spotlight on him.
Well, thank you. Well, my career is made some changes. I was started in the IT. I was one of the founders of data mining in the world and artificial intelligence, and then I moved to the telco world. And in the telco world, we worked with fiber optics. And when you work with fiber optics, you work with light. And suddenly we started to understand that light and biological systems, there is a big relationship between them. So we got more and more interested. And 40 years ago, I met my business colleague, Eric Laraker, who is a veterinarian. And we sat together. And then, lucky enough, we were able to create a team of real, very good scientists around us who were especially in biophotons. So we took over a laboratory, and then we found out in a very early beginning that one of those critical items that we always forget, really always forget, but is probably one of the most important items in a biological system, is the role of water. Because everybody thinks that water is just water. And we found out after 1 year of testing that that is not the case. And then the whole adventure started.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've done a lot of episodes to try to explain, structured water, the water inside of our bodies, how it's not just something, like you look at in a glass, it's like a gel-like structure. And the communication system in the body kind of travels at the speed of light because of this water inside the body. And when we understand that, so many things that we think about health, of these individual systems separated out, that kind of becomes old science, in my opinion. Would you say?
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So Mario, tell us a little bit about you and your background. I know you have a lot of science that you want to talk about today as well.
Yes. Well, just to kickstart with an interesting fact, most people aren't aware that 99% of our molecules are water.
Yes.
We are 70% water in mass, but 99 in molecules. That off the bat tells you that there is something extraordinarily important about water. We're basically very clever H2O.
Yes.
Which is really interesting. So my background, I owned a natural pharmaceuticals company for years, and I was really passionate about health and wellness. So I really kind of invested all of my efforts to kind of help people get back to their health in natural ways, because natural way is always holistic. So it covers all the bases. So after a while of doing this, I got acquainted with Dolf and Eric, and I was really excited about the project because I knew there is something incredibly important about water, and them too, they're really the pioneers of this science. So I just entered the team and did several studies, and we barely scratched the surface of magic of water. And we're just about to start finding out on a global level what water truly is.
That's very exciting. Well, I'm excited to hear more from you today about all the amazing things you guys are doing, but you have a tool that, like I mentioned in the beginning, that I've been using since the end of last year. Probably October is when I got mine, and then of course got pregnant in January. So can we talk a little bit about this Analemma wand? I get a ton of questions about it. My followers always kind of see me using it. And so let's talk about this technology a little bit.
Let's do that. But I think that Mario made a very good point. Let's first explain a little bit what is chaotic water and what is coherent water. Because we can talk about the product, but it is all about these two things. First of all, water, what does it do? Well, water absorbs electromagnetic fields. And you think, what is an electromagnetic field? Well, one of the most important ones is the sun. So it can absorb the heat of the sun and it remains in the water. So it absorbs it. The same as the moon. You have the same with the moon. You have a moon cycle, and on a daily basis, you have high and low tide 2 times every day. So even there, you see that there is an attraction between water and high and low tides, and the same is with the sun. But there are multiple electromagnetic fields. And those fields, they create a kind of system together. So the atoms, H2O, they create a kind of crystal form. And that crystal form is very critical. When you cannot create the right crystal form, that is what we call chaotic water. If you can create a stable crystalline form that constantly has the ability to adopt new and positive energies, then we call it coherent water. That's the difference. And
most of the water that we drink is the chaotic water.
As a matter of fact, at this moment of time, I think 99% of the water in the world is chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
And due to all the pollution we bring in, it becomes more and more chaotic. So for us, we saw what is coherent water doing. And we saw that every time, every test all over the world, when the water becomes coherent, then the biological systems suddenly function more optimal. And you are a fantastic example of it.
Yes, because like we were saying, those systems of the body, they communicate at the speed of light. And when there is chaos within the system, there's miscommunication, there's misfiring, and everyone wants to think of hormones as something that we replace or we add in, or we take this supplement and that supplement. But when the water in the body is coherent, when it's working the way that it should, as nature intended, then those systems can communicate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Mario made a very good point. He was telling you 99% of your molecules in your body are water molecules. Well, we have a very strange form of democracy in our body. When we are sick, we always go with that 1% to the doctor.
Yes.
But we forget the 99%. And
Yes.
that is the most critical form we found. So what do you need? You need coherent water that remains coherent. And that was for us the most difficult task. The water that we use in the wand remains coherent. And most people call their water also coherent if they treat it, but you can break it in a few seconds time. Now water remains coherent. And that water is in the wand. And the wand, if you circle it around in a glass of water, then the rest of the water in the glass also becomes coherent. That is how it works.
That's actually the magic behind it, you know. It takes 1 full year to create what we call the mother water, the water that is inside the crystal vial. The crystal serves as a superconductor. It's like there, but it's not there. So any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to it will mimic its exact structure. That's where the magic, that's why it's so simple and it's so elegant and it works so well. And just like Dolf mentioned, the key is in its stability. There are several companies and scientists that developed some kind of structured water, but we tested it in between a couple of minutes and day and a half tops. The water from the structure goes back to chaos. And with just one swirl of Analemma through the water, that same water will stay in that very particular structure even 4 years later.
Oh, wow. So
it's extraordinarily stable. And that's the key. When we drink this water, our entire information system enters this very stable, coherent system. That's why people get such profound results when they drink the water.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, the science behind drinking structured water, because I know there has been a lot of data and research. When I start talking about this, people get very skeptical. You know, how is stirring your water with your magic wand or whatever it is? How does this bring my body a health benefit? What's the science to show this?
We really understand that position of the people. This is the wand, by the way.
Yes.
Yes. And you put this in a glass of water, and you stir it around, and it is after 20 seconds, the glass of water is coherent. And the beauty of it is that all the tests that we have done are tests done by outside laboratories, and we always use this one, and we always kept the water in 2 or 3 months, and then we used it in the tests to see how long it remained stable. And then we would continue the testing for sometimes more than a year. So all the tests were done in maybe 100 types of vegetables all over the world. We did it with humans, we did it with animals, and constantly every time we had the test done by outside organizations. And they came up with the final conclusions. And why is that? Because after 10 years having our own laboratory with all the scientists, we understood exactly what you just described. How is it possible, and how can we tell the people that this is the reality? Well, very simple. Do the test with outside laboratories and let them come with the outcome. That's how we did it.
Excellent.
We can actually go into to kind of describe a couple of those tests. We wanted to prove that something biologically remarkable happens when people drink this water. So we came up with, we were researching, and we came up on glycan age. And glycan age is the most accurate health and wellness test available. They have this group of scientists are the leaders in what's called glycan science. Glycans are these proteins in blood, and through a state of glycans, you can very accurately determine the age of your immune system, how old biologically you are in contrast to your chronological age. So, and through the state of your glycans, you can definitively say down the line, 5 years, 10 years, what kind of disease you're going to contrive. So it's an amazing way to test how healthy you actually are. And what we did is we did the baseline test, so just to determine what's the biological age of every single individual. Then we gave them Analemma water to drink for 3 months. And then again, we did the test, and results were remarkable. Almost every single person in the study experienced up to 12 years of biological age regeneration. Their whole system got regenerated on the cellular level. So that's really something that shows you that something awesome happens when people drink this water. And this is just one of the tests. One really interesting and beautiful test is the double-blind brainwave test, because results are instantaneous. So as soon as a person drinks a sip of this water, there is an instant left and right hemisphere of the brain communication happens, and there is an instant cooling effect on the brain waves, and this happens really instantly. So this is the one thing where you can immediately see the change, and all the other results happen through time. We can hear you, Sarah.
Sorry, I had muted myself.
No worries, no worries, no worries.
There was some noise outside of the window. You know, I didn't know either of these studies, and I experienced both of those, you know, because I'll be giving birth in the next few weeks, and I'm 43 years old. And so to get pregnant in your 40s is not an easy feat these days. I don't think it was this way 30, 40 years ago, but it is now, due to so many things that we have in our environment, just so much chaos, and there's just, it's a lot. And so that's study number one. And then study number two, I have a daughter who is 14, and she has pretty significant autism, and she gets a lot of overstimulation, and she gets very, very, very dysregulated. Her nervous system gets dysregulated, and she watches everything I do, of course. Now she will not drink the water unless I stir it with my wand first, which I thought, well, maybe she just wants to be like me. But now you explain what that does to the nervous system, and I'm like, okay, she's very smart. She knows what helps her body, so that really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable. It's truly remarkable. And to come back to what you were saying about science and importance of science, we understand that people need reassurance.
Yes.
So now we are actually doing another double-blind placebo-controlled glycanage study just to reinforce the results. We're doing a double-blind placebo-controlled ATP study where we're actually measuring the rise in mitochondrial energy when people drink our water. We're doing double-blind placebo-controlled microbiome study because we realized, like the science in the last 10 years clearly showed that there is a huge connection with the state of your microbiome and any area of our health. And we already approved on the soil. We actually watered the depleted soil with Analemma water and with regular water. And with our water, the microbiome, the diversity of it increased dramatically.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is a beautiful thing, and Dolf can share a couple of words about that because that's a really exciting study.
Well, one of the things is that we use polluted soil for more than 12 years, and soil types were misused by toxins, and we used that soil. Then we took this wand, we put it in rainwater, and we split the two groups. One was using the rainwater, and one the rainwater after using the wand. And after 3 months, we saw an increase of diversity of more than 60%. And it brought back the original bacteria.
Wow.
And that is really remarkable.
It absolutely is. So does the wand help just with structuring the water, or are there any benefits to, let's say, if someone is trying to drink like tap water, which we all know is extremely polluted in most places?
That's a very important question because a lot of people in the US use tap water and there's a lot of chloride in it. Yes. You can still use the wand, although it is better to take out first the chemicals, put in a filter, and after the filter, then use the wand. That's the best. Yes.
Yes, but there are benefits if someone.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we did a test by purpose with rainwater. That
Yes.
was also polluted more or less.
Exactly.
And we did the same with a polluted ditch. We used polluted water and we used the wand, and we saw that in a very, very, very short time frame, the right bacteria were able to cleanse this polluted environment.
Wow.
So in one way or another, those bacteria came back.
Wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, I talk a lot about the kind of the dangers of tap water and definitely encourage my audience to drink clean water, spring water, remineralize the water. But the final step, I think, that brings you the most health benefits is structuring the water as well.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, because this is also an interesting thing. A lot of people asked, can we make wine coherent or beer coherent, which is an interesting fact. But if it has H2O molecules in it, and when you swirl through it, it will form this beautiful liquid crystalline structure which actually carries the magic. So even if there is chlorine in the water, of course, it will be better to purify it, but the main element, the structure, is the one that actually brings the benefit. So if it has H2O molecules, you can make it coherent.
Very interesting. What are some of the most, I guess, amazing health benefits that you see people having besides maybe anti-aging and then the brain, the nervous system effects? What are some other things that people might be able to kind of glean from using something like this?
Well, there are multiple. One of the things is that we are doing some tests now on the immune system. What we do see is that the immune system is really responding to the communication system into your body. You can use a lot of pills. A lot of people take supplements. But what are these supplements doing in the body if the body itself doesn't know how to communicate?
Exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because my audience knows on my kind of fertility journey, I was spending $500 to $1,000 a month on supplements. And then I connected with some of my friends in the quantum community, is what I call it. And they encouraged me to start grounding, getting in the sun, syncing circadian rhythms, drinking structured water and get off the supplements. And it wasn't until I kind of got rid of most of the supplements and started doing those things that my body actually responded. And so I think that there's a lot of people, you know, they say, oh, that's expensive, but they'll just drop money on supplements because there's so many studies. Well, you need this chemical to do this and that, and the body is not gonna, it's gonna be another form of confusion to just continue to throw things into the system, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we do see, it is all based upon communication into the body. Yes.
Yes.
And you have to optimize that. And the body itself has enough intelligence to know what it is doing. The body itself is much more smarter than we are. But we have to make sure that we eat the right food, get rid of the toxins, and get the right water.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess another question would be, so you've got the wand, right? And it's got the special water in it. You stir for 20 seconds. I also read that you should probably kind of recharge the wand and put it outside every now and then in the sunlight or the moonlight. Can we talk about that just a little bit?
Well, it's not necessary to do it, but you know, we realize that water loves the sun. So we kind of suggest to people that every couple of weeks, they just expose their analemma to open sunlight. So it will work anyway. But there is this, you know, we call it analemma. Analemma is the power symbol of the sun. So there is a great correlation between water and sun. That's why we kind of always tell people, expose it to the sunlight every couple of weeks. You know, it's interesting thing how biological systems respond to analemma. There is one lady in the glycanage study was doing exactly that, exposing the analemma to the sun. So she always put her analemma in kind of a small kind of balcony garden at the same spot. And what happened after a month is, like, you created a circle around it. All the plants around it grew a couple of centimeters higher than anywhere else rest in the garden. So plants, any biological system responds to it in a wonderful way. But it was so wonderful to see how these plants grew just because they were physically around the analemma.
Wow. Yeah, so many people think that we're so different than plants, but I feel like we're kind of plants that can travel. We can move around a little bit, that we respond to the sun. Just like if a plant doesn't have sunlight, it will die. And I feel that humans are the same way.
Exactly. And I would definitely want to ask Dolf to tell us a bit more about the very exciting biophoton research that we did on plants.
Let me first explain a little bit what biophotons are. Biophotons are the light that you can measure into any cell, even in a mineral. And that is the communication between the systems. And the quality of the light and the frequency shows exactly if it is in balance, yes or no. But to find biophotons, you need very specific cameras. And the cameras must be extremely sensible because you are measuring a candlelight on 20 miles difference. So the distance of 20 miles, and then the flickering of the light is what you measure into your computer system. But what we found is that every time when you had vegetables, and we have tested more than 200 types, we saw that after receiving the analemma water, the light was changing in a positive way. And then we collected the seeds of those vegetables, and then year after year, the light was increasing. And what we also saw is a lot of vegetables that we eat in the supermarket, they hardly have light. People have to understand what they eat is frequencies and light. And what you do with analemma stick is you collect the right frequencies. You bring it back into your body. So the biophotons were very critical for us. They showed us exactly is the wave right. And I tell you why it is important, because a lot of people think that when a plant is growing faster or bigger, then it is better.
Mhm.
It's not always the case. We found out that by many of those other coherent states of water, as they mention it, they take out the energy of the soil. And what happened with our water is that the soil first got the real base. They really became stronger and stronger. And then the plant was growing in a very harmonic way. And we could measure that exactly with the biophotons. And this was why we were able to bring this water in a coherent state. We could measure it on all kinds of soils and vegetables. That is how we did it.
Wow.
It's amazing how biophotons actually tell you the vitality of any biological system. And whichever fruit or plant we kind of, for instance, tomatoes, they have 50% more light than any other tomato. And when we drink Analemma water, we exude more light. Our vitality goes up dramatically. And you know, there is one other beautiful, beautiful thing. We're now doing work with a molecular biologist and testing resilience of the plants with Analemma water. And what's beautiful, and you can actually test this yourself since you own Analemma already. You can take 2 basil plants and you can water one with regular water and one with Analemma water for a while. And then you cut their water supply. You don't water them, and you increase the heat around them. For instance, 36, 35, 37 degrees. In 2 days, what will happen is that the basil plant, which is watered by regular water, will completely shrivel down.
Really?
Yes, and the one watered with Analemma, you are not going to see any difference.
Well, I'm going to start watering all my plants with
because
with
you can, this is something very visual, so you cannot ignore it, and the vitality of it doesn't go down.
Wow.
That's because of we also realize that, you know, electric capacity of water is anywhere between 150 and 300 millivolts, and when you swirl the Analemma through the water, that capacity jumps by 300%.
Wow.
All that energy, when you drink the water, ends up in your cells, and that's why cells can repair much better.
I sincerely hope you guys are enjoying today's episode with the guys from Analemma. Again, if you want to check out the Analemma wand, the code is Sarah in all caps, and the link is down in the show notes for you guys. I've had this thing for about a year now and no signs of needing to replace it anytime soon. So I really appreciate the time that these guys took to sit down and talk with me about this technology. I wanted to also really quickly thank one more sponsor of today's episode, and that's going to be Upgraded Formulas. Now, one of the things that we're going to dive into in this episode is mineral depletion, the soil, how mineral depleted our soil is. And when your soil is depleted, your food is depleted, and so many of us are mineral depleted. So how do we know which minerals to add, what we're depleted in? My go-to is the hair tissue mineral analysis from Upgraded Formulas. You can use my code YOGI12 or YOGI to save on that analysis. I definitely recommend getting a consultation with that, because a lot of times those results can look like one thing on paper but actually mean another thing. So a mineral might look high on your result, but it's actually because your body is losing a lot of that mineral. So the consultation is very, very helpful. I have used this on myself for the last 2 years to stay on top of my mineral balance, and I recommend it standard to most of my clients. So again, the hair tissue mineral analysis from Upgraded Formulas, they also have a really, really good magnesium product. I trust their products, their supplements, so check them out. My code again is YOGI or YOGI12 to save on those. And thank you again to Upgraded Formulas for being a sponsor of today's show. Let's jump back into it. Thank you guys again for watching, for listening. Make sure to give this episode a like and leave me a comment to let me know if you like it. Talk to you soon. Wow. So one thing that you keep saying, that you said from the beginning, is that water holds electromagnetic frequencies, right? So what about, you know, everyone carrying their phones around, the Bluetooth devices, the computer, you know, all the electronics that were constantly around, how does that cause water to become kind of chaotic, and you know, how is that affecting our bodies? I think a lot of people I talk about non-native EMF mitigation all the time, and I wear a band around my stomach, you know, to protect the baby from electromagnetic frequencies, and everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I know Dr. Pollack's lab is kind of where that research came out of, but maybe we can touch on that just a little bit, and maybe how Analemma can help in those types of situations.
Well, this is a very interesting subject. EMFs are all around us nowadays, yes, and we started with that 20 years ago with mobile phones, and at home everything with a computer has a communication system. But what we did found is that most of those frequencies, they create chaotic water. So the water becomes really chaotic, and almost every frequency in the mobile phone is doing that. And that was for us a very important part of our project. Can we keep water so stable that it can resist those negative energy fields? And the outcome is yes, we can. And that is your Analemma stick.
Excellent. Yeah, for a while I didn't know better, and I was using an infrared panel to kind of charge my water. And then one of my teachers pointed out to me that the panel had electromagnetic frequencies that was too close to the water. So it probably, even though you're exposing the water to infrared, it's absorbing also those frequencies. And so that's when I jumped and made the leap with Analemma to start using that to structure my water with. So I think a lot of people, they kind of want to understand structured water, but this electromagnetic frequency part is a little bit daunting to them.
Yeah, and it is a serious matter because it becomes
Yes.
more and more serious nowadays, because we also introduce a lot of satellites nowadays. And we are going to move to 5G.
Mm-hmm.
And 5G is not one frequency, but a whole number of frequencies. And that increases the number of antennas as well. And many of them have an impact on your body, some on the brain. But most important is that we did some tests with some universities now. And the outcome is that it creates the wrong bacteria into your intestine.
Wow.
And that will be published this year. But it is really serious. And what we are doing now, and that was for many years our testing environment, can we have water that is so stable, so coherent, that it can resist these energies? So something for you as well, take a bath with Analemma water.
Wow.
Not 20 seconds, but if you do it several minutes, go into the bath, and it is really amazing.
Wow.
I would like to add that we did a study on people using cell phones. So when people use cell phones, there is a very detrimental effect that happens on the brain waves. And we did the test where after using the cell phone, people drank our water, and there was immediate cooling effect on the brain waves. So it actually protects your brain waves from the cell phone radiation. And this is just one part of the equation. This whole thing is really extraordinarily important, and we're working really hard to definitively prove the correlations and also to provide the solution to people, because most world is completely ignorant of the harm this is actually doing.
I agree. At any time I talk about it, people, they get upset. And I'm like, I'm actually trying to tell you something that's going to help you. I'm not trying to hurt or bewilder you, but you know, there are things I do. I keep my phone, I try to keep it in a Faraday bag as much as I can and put it on airplane mode. I never use the wireless headphones. You know, I think those are very detrimental, and just try to keep the phone on speaker. But you're basically saying, even if someone is, because we're all going to be exposed to those frequencies, no matter how careful you are, there's towers, satellites everywhere, but you've seen that someone exposed to those drinks the Analemma water and it has a negating effect or a mitigating effect?
Yeah. What we have done is that we did multiple tests in laboratory on brainwaves.
Hmm.
And we could measure exactly in what specific band you could see an effect.
Wow. That's fascinating. And then you were mentioning, so we have a whole home structuring system. I got that we just moved into this house. So all my bath is structured water. But if someone didn't have that, they could also take an Analemma wand and stir the bathtub for what, a couple of minutes, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. And what would be some benefits to bathing in structured water? Or even, I know my hair has gotten softer and my skin seems a bit softer since we have moved into this house and we have the whole home filter, but would the softer skin, maybe better skin, would that be some of the benefits, or are there benefits beyond that?
Well, that also depends, of course, on the food you eat.
Oh, yes.
So you cannot say that Analemma can solve all the issues. That's not the case.
Yes.
The issue is that depending upon the food and the stress you have, if everything comes together, then the whole communication system in the body is more optimal. And then, of course, this can be the outcome.
Yes. And so understanding, going back to biophotons, food is a form of light, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when we eat, we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And with light, we mean a number of frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Certain frequencies, for instance, they communicate with magnesium, otherwise with calcium. Yeah. But they also have to communicate with each other. There is an ongoing communication system, and that is an information system. And in every cell, for every communication system, every cell in your body, and especially in your brain, in your lungs, you have water.
At 99%. Everyone always says 70%. Your body is 70% water, but then they don't understand the molecule part, that it's actually 99%. Yeah.
Just like Dolf earlier mentioned, our body is incredibly intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Our body wants to repair itself, and it has the ability to repair itself. When you drink coherent water, you're dramatically improving the communication and information system of your body. And then body can repair itself much faster and in a much more efficient way.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're kind of a partner of mine. We're running a group about fertility right now and trying to explain to the women, like, because it's hard not to read certain blood markers and get hung up on certain numbers, and just how when this communication system is working in the body, there's a resonance effect that takes place with the hormone markers. And sometimes you're not going to see those numbers change, but you'll see a change within the body. Sometimes it's going to take a while for those numbers to shift. But when that communication system is working in the body, hormones are the same thing. They work on this as a resonance, correct?
Yeah, but let me explain you something else upon health. Because
Yes.
A lot of people think that health is only based upon the chemicals into your body.
Exactly.
And that's not the case. When you become a doctor, you only learn the chemical reactions. And you have to treat people with a chemical product. There is something else happening in the body that's called energy in communication. And that is something we hardly know. And that is the most important part. It's all about communication systems. And that is what we found with the water. Water is that communication system, and it has to do with light and with frequencies. And the body itself is so intelligent, it knows exactly what to do with all those frequencies and how to bring it together and how to let it go.
Yeah, I feel like so many different diseases and things that manifest in the body come because we spend only 11% of our day exposed to the sun. And that might be a generous number for some people, that we've just kind of stopped being exposed to the sun, going out in nature. You know, one of my daughter's favorite things to do is to sit by a stream that's rushing, to just hear that. And my husband is like, why does she love to hear the water so much? And I said, because it's structuring her water inside of her body. And
Yeah.
then he thinks I'm completely crazy, but
No, but we are really moving in a very interesting world. And take, for instance, the sun, you just mentioned it.
Mhm.
But a lot of people now, they used a blockage and protect themselves, what they called against harmful sun rays.
Mhm.
But you need the sun.
Mhm.
It's your biggest communication system. But if the
Yes.
body doesn't absorb it in the right way and it doesn't know how to communicate with it, yeah, then you have the problem.
Yes. Yeah, everyone says the sun causes cancer, and we wear sunglasses and regular glasses and regular contacts. They block out UV and they block out infrared.
Yeah.
And then you have a signal coming in to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and then you have the rays coming onto the skin, and there's a miscommunication. And we blame the sun for skin cancer and for all of these other issues. But if we didn't have the glasses on and we saw the sun in sequential order, the sunrise, UVA, UVB, did it the correct way, and don't overexpose, don't burn yourself, then and we weren't under alien light forms all the time, I feel like we'd be living in a different world as far as people, how they view the sun and illness.
True.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, nowadays, a lot of people use LED lights,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that is a very limited frequency.
Yes.
While the body is built to absorb a broad range of frequencies.
Yes.
And that's the sun and the moon.
Yes. So the moon too, I would love to talk about that, because a lot of people in my community talk only about the sun, but part of the technology with Analemma is that you utilize the moon as well, right?
Well, you started this discussion with a very interesting observation that you became pregnant.
Yes.
Well, and then I can tell you something very nice about Analemma. What we did is that we looked to seeds, how they develop in the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we used rainwater, and we used the same rainwater with Analemma. And what we saw is that suddenly we saw waveforms, and they had a beautiful waveform when it was in contact with the Analemma stick, but we didn't know what is that wave. And then we found out after 2 months that that waveform was exactly the moon waveform with high and low tide. And that means that if you take the Analemma, you resonate much better with the moon.
Wow.
And what are women doing? They constantly resonate with the moon.
I got pregnant on a full moon.
That's
I
it.
remember I charted it down. I said, this the full, and that's when I actually was the day of the full moon is when I got pregnant in January. And that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And we could test it in a laboratory.
Wow, it's fascinating. Okay. So it really helps you kind of tune more into nature. And that's what I always tell ladies, you want to, if you're a cycling female, you want to kind of be in sync with the moon, ovulation during the full moon, and then, the cycle during the new moon. That's kind of the ideal cycle for most women is follow that cycle of the moon. And so that's very interesting. Wow.
Water and the moon, they have a very strong relationship. And we could see even in the laboratory, the high and low tide. It was really amazing. If you see that, you think, what are we doing in this world?
Well, our bodies are supposed to, like you said, our bodies are 99% water molecule. If you look at what happens with the ocean, the tides with the moon, it's the same. Our bodies should hopefully do the same thing the more we're connected to it. But I think people just think it's too simple. They do what I did before I did all of this. This was my last resort, was to connect with the earth and the moon and circadian rhythms. That was the last thing I did before I spent probably 6 figures on doctors, IVF, fertility treatments that didn't work. But then I did the free thing pretty much, an Analemma wand compared to fertility treatments is like pennies, and that's what ended up working. But I think people are just so brainwashed to think that we have to spend a lot of money and pay the doctors and pay the experts in order to get well. But I think what you guys are doing is kind of showing that that's not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah, like Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest inventors of all time, he said, like, the secret of the universe is in frequency, energy, and vibration. So it's not in the chemicals, it's in frequencies. And this is exactly what Analemma touches upon. This is the base of it. That's why we're calling Analemma the conscious water. It opens the pathways to our body and mind and our soul to be connected to everything that is relevant to universe, in a word.
So I've had my wand since, let's say, October of last year. Do I need to buy a new one every now and then? How long are the wands really good for?
This is actually the beauty. If you care for it and don't break it, it will actually create coherent water for you for your whole life.
Oh, okay.
So you don't need to change it. This is the beauty of it. We are actually coming up with various new applications very soon. Within a month and a half, we're going to come up with the whole house Analemma system.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can install it in the pipe system of your house. So all the water in your house will be in the coherent state. And this can be your travel companion from then on.
Wow. So yeah, I just did a post on my Instagram of things I travel with versus things that other people travel with. Most people bring sunscreen, sunglasses, hand sanitizer, a bathing suit that has SPF protection. I bring my Analemma wand, my red light panel, my tan through bikini. And I don't need the other things, but that wand comes with me where it just stays in my purse, you know. So if I'm out somewhere, it's just so simple. You just stir the water and you're, you know, or whatever you're drinking and you're good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be careful, you get addicted to the wand. So do we.
Yeah, none of us actually, whoever kind of really got acquainted with the Analemma, we only drink this water because it's the only way to drink water.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't explained, like I said, I haven't explained any of this to my daughter at all. She's very intuitive though. She says she's been talking with her brother for months now, that they have conversations. So she's very intuitive, but I've never explained to her anything about the water. She just watches what I do. But now she won't drink it unless I stir it first. She like hands it to me. I'm like, okay, well, now now we know why. That's fine. I don't mind. I stir hers and I stir my husband's too, even though he still thinks I'm crazy. But maybe I'll make him watch this interview so I'll start to understand a little bit more.
That's why we're investing so much into science. And as I mentioned, we have more than several studies coming up, and we have big plans. And, you know, this is also one amazing thing, what Analemma water can do for the environment. We actually haven't touched upon that. And it really works from personal to universal. In this last study, we realized when the microbiome of the soil changed dramatically, what happened is that the soil started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere.
Wow.
So that could be very simple and very elegant way to solve the problem of greenhouse gases.
Yeah, and you know, we supposedly only have like 60 years left with the soil that we have now. Do you think that could also help with that issue as well?
Most definitely, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Dolf, please. Yeah, this is Dolf's very particular area. So yeah, he can share really the amazing studies that we're doing behind that.
I think you're quite optimistic with 60 years, by the way.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, we really have to change our way of living dramatically. And it doesn't mean that it has to be in a very nasty way. We can simply solve most of the problems. But yes, one of the things is we use the agriculture very often, and we tested it very often with polluted environments. In a polluted environment, the CO2 out of the air cannot be absorbed anymore because of the bacteria that you need into the soil. And what we have seen is that we bring back Mother Nature very fast, and then suddenly you see an additional absorption of the CO2 coming out of the air, bringing back to where it belongs, and that is in the soil. and it gives us back the oxygen.
Wow.
So we can make it very detailed, but that is more or less what it does. You bring back the right bacteria, you bring it back into a natural form, and then you create the normal harmonic cycle that is in Mother Nature.
So you'd use I guess, are you using the system now that you guys are coming out with in the next month or so, kind of to water those? Is it like a filter that you put onto the water, or how does that work when you do those tests?
We're actually having the whole agricultural application. So which is completely, it's similar but different than the whole house thing, because then we can treat large quantities of water. And when we touched upon agriculture, this is one really remarkable thing. There's this one farmer who uses our water for a while now, and he's planting and growing these a particular kind of cucumbers. And usually these cucumbers give fruit like 10 to 12 weeks in the year, and that's basically it. But with our water, he's now at 22 to 24 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So really something special happens when you water plants with our water. It really increases, I'm not going to say yield, but time. It gives out fruit, and the quality, which is the most important thing, the quality of the fruit is supreme.
Wow. Yeah. And I love that you said that, they can grow fruit for 12 weeks usually, but now 22 weeks. That's the other story about light and food that I don't think people understand, is that we probably shouldn't be eating different foods like shipped all over the world where we're living. We need to be a little more conscious of that if we're going to worry about the environment and our own health. Learning how to eat seasonally and locally, I think, is a big part of improving your health, along with the water story too, would you say?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
By the way, coming back to the story of the cucumbers, it was very, very interesting also to tell you that from a chemical point of view, they still see that certain parts of the chemicals are missing in the soil. So normally, this cannot happen. But the taste and the quality of the cucumber is much better than any other organic farm in our country.
Wow.
So it has to do with energy.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like this is where we need to go with our health. A lot of people follow me because I was originally a nutrition channel, talked a lot about nutrition, but now it's so hard for me to just only talk about food and nutrition and things like that without mentioning water, without mentioning light. Because if you don't have those things in order, you can eat this quote unquote nutritious perfect diet, but if your light and your water is off, it's only going to do so much, would you say?
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it has to work together.
Yeah.
Well, have you done any studies? I've read a little bit about how structured water can kind of reduce tissue stiffness in the body. And I know a lot of like cancers, a lot of these diseases that people are getting these days, they can kind of link it back to tissue stiffness or lack of electrons in the body. Have you done any research or science in that arena at all?
For now, we haven't ventured in that area, but as I mentioned, there are so many studies to do. So you gave us an idea to actually kind of explore that particular area, because we can do only so much studies at the time. As I mentioned, we're in the middle of 4 double-blind placebo-controlled studies. As soon as we've done those, we're just going to continue, because as I mentioned, we barely scratched the surface of the magic of this water. So there are so many applications and so many studies to actually do to definitively prove, because people do like their proofs, so to speak.
They do.
Yeah. So we just kind of want to go there and give them these irrefutable proofs of what this water does.
So you're looking at the soil microbiome, and what are kind of some of the other studies that you're in progress
Actually,
with right now?
human study, microbiome study. So we are measuring the biodiversity of human microbiome when you drink this water. It's a double-blind placebo-controlled study. We're doing double-blind placebo-controlled brainwave study. We already know that there is a special effect happening when you drink this water on the brainwaves. So we're just fortifying those results. We're doing double-blind placebo-controlled glycanage study, because glycanage really kind of shows you very kind of a wide array of effects. So we're doing that. We are doing, as I mentioned, double-blind placebo-controlled ATP study, where we're measuring the rise of mitochondrial energy when people drink this water.
Fantastic.
And
so
by the way, we do the same on animals.
Yes.
It has the same effect on animals.
What kind of effects have you seen as far as the animal studies go?
Well, we have used it in many farms, and suddenly the animals became more restful, more quiet. Yes.
There is one farm, pig farm, that had like a lot of problems with the health of the animals. So, and they couldn't deal with it with the regular veterinarian procedures and medications. And when we gave them the Analemma, in a very short period of time, the health came back to the whole farm.
Wow.
So it really has a profound influence. We are actually also planning to do many more studies on animals and plants and humans. So basically, any biological system you expose Analemma water to, it remarkably thrives.
So you mentioned, oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, we also use it on herbs.
Oh, yeah.
Because what we found is that many herbs don't have the right quality anymore. So if you give it the Analemma water, it comes back to the real powerful original form.
Wow. Yeah, that's one thing I talk about a lot on my channel. I've talked about with different mineral experts and people that kind of want to encourage you to take your magnesium and take these different minerals. But it comes down to the fact that our soil is so depleted of these minerals. So what you're saying is that Analemma water can kind of help to naturally restore some of that remineralization, or what?
Well, what we are doing, Sarah, is that we are killing the normal harmonic cycle of many things. And we have to bring back that cycle. And water is one of the key ingredients in it. And then let Mother Nature do the rest. But as humans, in God's sake, don't touch it.
So stop adding the chemicals, stop adding these different things, and let the water do its job, essentially.
Yes.
Exactly. A lot of people aren't unaware, but like a spinach 15 or 20 years ago had 80% more nutrients than now.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's, in and of itself, it's crazy. You have to eat like 4 or 5 times more spinach just to have the same amount of nutrients than 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, I believe it. And that's one thing I've just anecdotally experienced with drinking the Analemma water. And I do add a little Quinton hypertonic minerals to my water. I love those. But I was taking those electrolyte packets, 2 of these, 3 of these, just trying to always keep my electrolytes in balance. And then I started structuring all of my water, and I noticed I don't need to add like all these packets to my water all the time. And I didn't have the problems like the muscle cramps, the cramps in the legs. And a lot of pregnant women complain about that swelling in the ankles and the legs and muscle cramps and all of those things. And I haven't had, I'm just a few weeks away here. I haven't had any of that during my pregnancy. I've done a little minerals, all my water structured, but no huge packets of salt and potassium and all the things that people add into their water. So do you think that the structured water kind of plays a part in that hydration status?
Very much so, very much so. So as we already mentioned, the information system and the frequencies, they do the job. That's where the difference is. So it's just it's very also interesting thing. A lot of people take a lot of multivitamins, but when you check their vitamin status in their blood, it's low. So it's not like in how much of multivitamins or any supplements you're using, is how your body is utilizing the ones that you're actually taking in. And that's where our water helps tremendously.
Yep, exactly. It's on that resonance scale. It's not about adding in this and adding in that. It's can the communication system in your body work properly? Wonderful. Well, I'd love to know a little bit more about what you guys have. You mentioned the system that you have coming out soon, things that you guys have on the horizon for Analemma.
So we have this whole house system that is going to come out soon. We're working on the ultimate water treatment system on the planet, so that you have an in-house system that purifies the water from all the chemicals, pollutants and everything, and makes it coherent. So that's the next step. And we're going to be coming out very soon with a kind of Brita-like system where you have a pitcher of water and it purifies from the pollutants and it makes it coherent, so you can actually hold it in your refrigerator. So there are many applications coming along down the line.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
And then on top of that, we also going to do for gardens. And
yes.
I was going to ask about that.
And for the agriculture.
Wow. So you want to help people with their gardens on a small scale, but you also have plans to help agricultural, like farmers and people that do things on a larger scale. Oh, wow. How is that going to work? Is it
we did more than 10 years of testing, so we are ready for it. We have the tools, the equipment, we can make it, we can do it.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And I would like to add one thing, the mission of our company, the mission of all of us, is to actually make all the bodies of water on the planet coherent again.
Wow.
It's a very high task. But we are more than confident that we are going to do it, because we have already kind of equipment. Can you imagine if we put our very ecological equipment in the wells and springs of all the rivers?
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Yes, all the life down the line would thrive, and all that water would end up in the ocean. So, and water can purify itself, as we already kind of described the microbiome. Everything purifies itself. So we're just giving it a hand. We deep in our hearts, we know that Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project.
Wow, that's fascinating. I love this whole conversation, and I was just kind of thinking. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Laszlo Boros at all and his work on deuterium. But one of the things, I know water has natural deuterium in it, that he was telling me was that if people try to drink deuterium depleted water and they try to drink it too low, like the 5 ppm, 10 ppm, that it disrupts the microbiome. And I never kind of understood that until we had this conversation. So there's a delicate balance that nature has for us with water, correct?
Yeah, true. But deuterium is only one specific frequency.
Right.
They have done a lot of research in that area, also in relation to cancer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and we are quite familiar with that research. What we found is that our water is able to bring back the total frequencies into your body. And then the total communication, it's like an orchestra.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of an allopathic view, that we want to just separate out this chemical, that chemical.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what we found out during all the tests that we did, don't think only in terms of chemicals.
Yes.
Think in terms of frequencies.
Absolutely.
That's why we call Analemma water full spectrum coherent water, because it has full spectrum of frequencies that are necessary for our body to thrive. Actually, not our body, but any biological system.
Wow, that's fascinating. So if people want to obviously get the Analemma wand, you guys have been generous enough to give a code, which is just Sarah, to give them 10% off. What if they're interested in like this whole home system, and when do you expect that to be out, and how could they access that?
So if they can just send an email with their interest to info@analemma-water.com, then we can put them on the list. So as soon as we come out with it, we're going to come out with it, I'm hoping within month and a half. So if they send an email, then we're going to put them on the list. And when it comes out, I will definitely inform them. But for now, you know, they can buy Analemma, the one that we have now, and everybody, they're going to want to have it because, you know, we're constantly using it and you can travel with it, which is really very, very important thing. So wherever you go, you can take it with yourself, as we all do.
Absolutely. And is there any topic or anything that I did not ask you about that you think that the audience would find interesting or exciting today?
No, Sarah, I think you had a fantastic interview. You raised all the right questions, but I think the most important thing is that we have to understand how nature works.
Agreed.
And that is a little bit more than only looking to the chemical part of it.
Agreed.
And I hope that by using Analemma, people will find out there is a lot of things that we have to learn and respect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And Mario, do you have anything to add?
Well, just like I mentioned already, Mother Earth is the hidden voice of this project. We feel that we are serving this water, not the other way around. There is something really important about this planetary. So we are all kind of feeling that, you know, we want to do whatever is in our power. And that's why we're all thanking you. You know, people are coming, people are waking up. It's incredible that you shared us this time that we can explain to people so they can get the message and they can get the benefit. And the more of us use this and the more of us become aware of it, we're going to change the world.
I agree. It's very exciting. Well, thank you so much both for being here and chatting with me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.